All right, it looks like I am live. And all alone, but not for long. So, hello, anyone watching on catch up. This is going to be a live stream recording, and it will be detailing the subject of menstruation. And I see that Milo is already here. Hi, Radical by Choice. It's good that you're here. I have been thinking about you lately. I got out the blanket that you made for me, and kind of have it out as like my kind of throw blanket. So thank you for that. Again, that was a really nice gift. All of your gifts have been very nice, of course. And hello, other viewers. I see we have 6 viewers. I like to wait until I have about 10 here, and then, yeah, yeah. Um, I like till I have about 10 here. Sorry, I'm reading the comments. And then I like to start the conversation. I think today I'm going to talk kind of about my experiences with menstruation. And I've kind of just put myself on, I think I'll just kind of, I haven't really planned this out, partially because I want to see what will come out of me. I want it to be the kind of that sort of conversation, where I just speak to you all about, some things that I experienced with being female and having, you know, dealing with all the shit that goes along with having a menstrual cycle. So, I'd love if women in the chat talk about this too, like share your own experiences. If we had similar experiences, I think one of the things that is really lacking right now is a real kind of consciousness around female specific experiences and a real respect for them as women, because we have a culture now where so many people are very confused about sex and gender, and gender is being equated so much with sex. And I think, oh, wonderful. Sorry, I responded to a comment there. Yeah, I think when we don't have respect for our own personal experiences, we can't ever really stand up for ourselves or do anything, and challenge things that are wrong in the world if we don't have some integrity of self. So I'm hoping that this conversation helps kind of facilitate that sort of consciousness, and we move forward positively from there, because it's there's so much that goes on in women's lives, I think, that we could just get over a lot quicker if we had a way of just bringing it to, our consciousness. And that's what these live streams, I'm hoping that they'll facilitate. So I'm going to give it another minute or so, because I actually have to share the link on like my Twitter and Facebook to this chat. So yeah, I'll be kind of looking at my phone. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. It's wonderful that you're bleeding with the moon. I too have recently, like in this year, psyched up with the moon, or synced up, sorry, with the moon, and it's been a very different experience. Like my inner tides are just very, I don't know, lunar now. It's a good feeling. Um But I had a very like short period this last period. I have a very nice period most of the time. I say I've really been blessed as a woman with what can happen. Mine has just been much nicer, I feel, than it could have been. So I'm grateful for that. Um, oh, Satsuna Angel has not watched my streams for a while and has to catch up. Well, yes, you do. You do need to catch up on my streams. I think we've been having some cool conversations. Like, I do. I think it's been good. I would like to facilitate maybe like group chat in the future. Um, Kind of like we used to do on Stickum, Diana, who's here in the chat. Like, I know you do that with your channel, and I think, I should probably like just kind of, yeah, like a hangout. Yeah, schedule a hangout. But I don't know, that's so harder to do and to sync up properly. But I think they're really good tools. And like, when I used to do them when I was younger, like I didn't really have much experience or even really like plan them out. I think now I'd take probably a firmer hand with how I did them. And I think that's kind of the thing that I'm working on a bit. Um, so yeah, I'm just sharing this right now. Um, what the hell? It has sadly come to be that I have to replace my phone again. I got this one about a year and a half ago, and it's, you know. Oh my goodness. So, yeah. Anyway, it's been shared. Yeah, it's a real drag. And I actually have like a prepaid plan. Like I ended up on that years ago because where I was living, and it was just the easiest place to go to when I like left T-Mobile to get a new phone. And it's been okay, but like yeah, I don't get like free, upgrades on my phone. So when I need to get a new phone, like it's out of pocket. So I have to like be frugal. But I'll probably get like I think I'm gonna get a refurbished like iPhone or something just to save money, but also have a phone that probably works a little bit better for everything I need to do. So anyway, a little off topic, but glad to chat about that with you there. All right. Thank you for the 20 people that are here right now. Hopefully all women. If you're a man watching this, you're fucking weird, dude, and you need to leave because this is not the conversation for you. Sorry. Okay. So, um, Seraphine's here. Wonderful. And hello to yes, repeat as I repeat. Okay. So, like I was saying, there's a real conflation of sex and gender going on right now. So I would like to talk about like womanhood in relation to sex as an experience and how that impacts womanhood. There's a lot of gaslighting done on women about our experiences used to silence and shame us when we speak out, against the erosion of our rights by the trans cult. So with that happening, there's a lot of mind games that are played generally around things related to women's menstruation. Things like women who've had their uteruses removed, the hysterectomies. And that kind of stuff is, used to shame women into being silent about men invading women's spaces and taking women's resources and like actually removing sex-based protections for women in certain scenarios. So that is used to silence women who are speaking out against this, because we don't want to exclude women who've had a hysterectomy, or a woman who cannot menstruate for whatever reason. There are many reasons why that might be. So, there's that thing that happens where women who, don't have these experiences, which are generally a part of womanhood, are used to silence women who are speaking out on behalf of female womanhood, that sort of thing. The only kind of womanhood, let me be clear. So yeah, there's that sort of thing, but also there's a gaslighting that happens around what menstruation is. So you see many of these men who are pretending to be women online mainly claim to have a menstrual cycle, even though they cannot bleed. They have a very misogynistic projection of what a woman's period is. And they generally make it about, having mood swings and that sort of thing, and it just is very troubling because this particular kind of condition, gender dysphoria, is kind of often, if we talk about it just clinically for a second, I don't really give much stock to like physicians and the psychiatric community. I think they are a big cause of this problem because it's a way they can exploit people's mental illnesses for profit, or made up, mental illnesses, or nonconformity with society standards of, appropriate male and female behavior by the heterosexist, machine. They exploit these things to turn a profit. So I would say anytime we use their language, we need to be clear that we're not saying they're, you know, I don't ever want to put forward that they are the people that we need to like be, using to bring this thing down. I think really sticking to a radical politic about our own womanhood is what will bring it down, honestly. And having our own integrity and defending ourselves as women is what brings it down, and not making it about, the mental health industry and that kind of shit. That just bugs me. Anyway, I'll probably go off on some tangents. I'm so sorry, but you know, because this condition often is a result of personality disorder and other issues. It is, it's often that people have swings, ups and downs, manic times and like more quiet times in their conditions. So what I've often seen is they're equating that with a menstrual cycle. And that is a real problem because it means they're not, really monitoring what's actually going on with their own mental health, which is a problem. But also, it's projecting that same kind of thing that women are crazy when we're on our periods, which is such a reversal because when women are on our periods, we're often a lot more aware and more present. It's something that is a really grounding experience for most women because you're again brought back to your own animal nature, which humans are always trying to avoid. And women are like, burdened, I suppose, with carrying more than males do, in society. They're able to separate themselves from their own, animalness, whereas women are consistently confronted with it because of our biology. So, you know, I wanted to just kind of mention that because there's just this real problem with the misogyny of how women's own cycles are used against us by, men who want to essentially erase us. So I'm going to read your comments and then move on. Mood swings and cramping. Like, bro, you need to see a doctor and probably get off those hormones if that's happening. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing with the hormones, they will cause you to have mood swings and all kinds of things. Like, it's just, this shit is so crazy. I think about what's happening and I just am horrified that people are just so uncritical about this when it's impacting so many vulnerable people. It's like beyond me. So let's see. Seraphine says, those are common with drastic changes in hormone levels, and those drastic changes are common when you are self-medicating using hormones bought online. I'm surprised it isn't worse. Oh yeah, I mean, that's another issue with like the easy access to those sorts of hormones. Inkblot says, I love my period. It reminds me I'm not a man and nothing like them. So Radical by Choice says, I had 3 ovaries and was constantly overloaded with hormones. Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about our biology. And, well, I want to talk about my experiences. So, we're 20 minutes in and I'm getting to talking about my own experiences. I guess it's easier to talk about stuff externally, outside of myself that I'm witnessing happening, but isn't my own personal experience. The first time I learned what a period was when I was, God, how old was I? I had to get the talk a little bit earlier than some girls do because I was having really bad yeast infections for a while. And we had to go to the doctor for one of them because I think I had a UTI or something like that. And it was just, I couldn't pee. So I had to go to the doctor and they examined me and everything. And the doctor, I guess, pulled my father aside and explained to him that I was like, I don't know, that I was like going to be getting my period soon. So that they needed to like get ready for that. And I think I was like 7 or 8. I was kind of young, I feel. And then I started like, and I kind of developed early too. I started getting breasts around that time. I think 8 is when they first budded. So I was, very, I don't know, I was having to deal with this stuff for, a while. And I also was too, I wasn't raised in a feminine household or, around other women. I was raised like pretty much strictly by my father. He had a few girlfriends that like lived with us a couple of times, but those were always disasters, So I didn't really have any knowledge of like menstruation. I didn't have any personal experience with it. I hadn't seen it up until that point. So yeah, this doctor told my father this. And the UTI was treated and taken care of. And actually, I think it was good from then on out. But like, yeah, I had to have this like conversation with my dad and he had to explain to me this thing. And you have to understand like what a man's understanding of this shit is. like what's going to happen to me, right? So I'm like listening to him, trying to understand, being horrified kind of by what I'm hearing, but also knowing that it's like real too. Um, and just kind of like being, I don't know, weirdly aware of my own body in a way I didn't like, but that, as a female child, like you're used to. Um, Hi, Mariana. It's nice that you're here. Um, so that was my first experience of learning about a period. So we went to the store shortly thereafter. I think the next time we went to the store, he, yeah, maybe he was scared. I don't know. My dad really he loved pontificating about things that he didn't have personal experience with, I have to say. So I don't know that he was that scared. Sorry, Dad. um, no, I don't think he was that. He was like I mean, I was grateful for the sort of like upbringing I had, even though it's like it's been weird in some ways, but like, my dad really, as a male, had to push himself to like raise a little girl and, not kill me. And I have to say, just looking at dads around the world, that is quite a fucking feat. I made it to adulthood and I'm actually a capable adult, so um as far as just the shit I read weekly, like I had it okay. There were a lot of inappropriate things he did and that sort of thing, but like, that's as far as like bad as it could have been, it could have been much worse. So I don't know. And he was also like kind of he wasn't really supportive of feminism or shit like that, but he had a lot of female friends. He related better to women. So like most of his social circle was women. So, he had a couple of male friends, but like they were also kind of alternative people. My dad was a craftsman, early on in my life. So he had a lot of like artist type friends and that sort of thing, creative people. He liked having friends who were, I guess more cultured. So, anyway, enough talking about my dad, but my dad does factor into these stories because he's a part, I guess, of some of that. So, next time we went to the store, we got maxi pads, and talked about the difference. My dad had to explain to me the difference between maxi pads and tampons. So he got these like massive boat shaped fucking things. And they remained under our kitchen, or like not kitchen, our bathroom sink for 4 years before I finally started a period. So I was told at the age of 8 that I was going to start my period soon, and I was waiting in terror for 4 fucking years for this impending flood of menstrual shit. Like, I started getting like, God, there were these like, because I was involved in Girl Scouts too, like, I was getting like these weird magazines and shit. So like there was these like magazines made for like tween girls that like you could order things from, and they had like these free menstrual kits that they sent to girls that are like put out by like the companies that to welcome you to womanhood, right? So I ordered a couple of them from different like companies. So I had all these like kits So man, when I got my period, I was set. Like I was good for many periods just from the hookup I got. But yeah, 4 years later, man, it sucked. And so, I felt kind of weird about it. I didn't really talk to any of my friends about it. Actually, this was something I kept internal because I had a lot of shame about it. There's always a lot of shame when you like enter into, puberty before the others. Like you're just inherently considered more sexual. And it's just this horrific thing that kids know about you. And like, it's just, ugh. I'm glad that you all are laughing at my pain. I'm so glad I could share my like, teenage, like not even teenage, childhood trauma with you. So yeah, I got my period in, I guess, the 7th grade, right? And I was, a young goth in the 7th grade. They called me that goth girl that looks like a valley or that talks like a valley girl. And that's pretty much been my personality since. So like, I was kind of a tough girl for the middle school, as far as like that went, I drifted away from some of my more preppy like friends that I'd had in elementary school. And I got kind of, in with a like cooler, edgier crowd of like kids. We kind of formed our own league of misfits who were into like angry music and that sort of thing. So, I was kind of developing, in that way in that time, like I was embracing my identity, I should say. And that's when my period started. Um, so I was 12 years old, which is, I think, a pretty normal age, honestly, like given how I felt I was going to get it all that time, especially the fact that I started getting breasts when I was 8. I was really thinking this thing was going to happen soon. And the other thing is too, like as a child, like dealing with like being molested as well and knowing that you're going to start your period soon, I was like very concerned that I could be impregnated. So that was like a fear that I was having on top of all of it. And that didn't stop until I was like 11. So this is like what I was dealing with, right? As a young woman. Um, but when I got my period, um, it was really it was, like, really subtle. It just kind of peeked in and said, "Hi." I've had such a nice period through my life, really. It's been a very good friend for me, like, honestly. So, I, like, went to go pee, I think, and I noticed that there was, like, brown in my panties, which I wasn't anticipating. And I was really, like, intrigued by this brown color, right? I was like, "What is this?" And I, like, had that sneaking suspicion, like, this must be my period, but I'd expected it to be, like, red. And, my grandmother, to her credit, had talked to me about it too. She shared with me her experience of her period as a young woman. And she got hers, I think, around I think she said I wish I remembered how old she said she was. I think she was, like, 11 or 12 as well. Um, so, she told me that no one told her about her period at all. Like, she had no idea what was gonna happen to her, and she just started bleeding one day, and so she had no prepping about this whatsoever, and she, like, thought she was dying. So she like freaked the fuck out, and like caused a massive and humiliating commotion because no one had bothered to tell her as a young girl that she was going to experience this thing because I don't know, from what I understand, her parents were a bit prudish. So yeah, I little segue back to like me discovering my period, right? It's in my panties. It's like this brown spotting. It's kind of like gunky, whatever. And I was just like, that must be it. But it wasn't like I didn't get much more. So I was like kind of weighing it, like that sort of thing. Like, is this it? Is it not? Went home. There was like more actually later. Like, I didn't need to get anything for it, too. I was in school, like, I think it was like the end of the day. We were going home soon anyway, so I wasn't too worried about it. And like, yeah, I don't know. I like kind of waited that day and like more came, like, and it was still kind of like brown, from what I remember. So, but I was like, no, this must be it, because I felt it, and like it was just a completely new experience. I was like, this has to be my period. So, later that day, I was a latchkey kid. My dad worked, so I would come home and he'd still be at work. And, when he came home later that day, I like told him that I had gotten it, and that it was finally here, 4 fucking years later. God damn it. Yeah, so, and he was just like, "Okay, like, do you need anything?" And I was like, "No, I'm set for a while because I had my fucking kids." And yeah, I got my period, man, and it was I think I, like, might have bled a little bit more, but it was really light. The first period, I don't really remember. But I know that it got red at the end, and then I was like, "Yeah, this is a period." If there was any doubt for me. Either that or, like, the second time it started, it was, like, red, but, oh, I know the second one was red. It was, like, red from the get-go, and I was like, "Yeah." 'Cause I was like, "Ew, why is it brown? Why is everything about me, like, dirty and wrong?" 'Cause I was a girl child, so I've been, like, instilled with that my entire fucking life. And, I I told my friends, at least if it came up, and it did, but I told, like, my closest friends that I'd gotten it and, made dumbass jokes about it, but it was all cool. I didn't really experience cramping until high school, with my period, and I wouldn't say my period was really regular until like a year into it existing. I remember some months it would come sooner, some it would come later. Like it wasn't consistent every month. So, and to be honest, my period mostly hasn't been. Um, like I feel my cycle pretty well internally, but it's very rarely like clockwork. Only has it like really recently started syncing up with the moon, probably because I'm becoming so magically powerful that that's what happens. But yeah, I just, I've had a pretty, you know, weird kind of up and down sort of random cycle. So let's see. Radical by Choice is talking about her period with massive clotting and excessive bleeding. Oh. God, that is so rough. I really feel for that. Like my period has been mainly light. I did have a year though when I was living in Yuma. I bled for a fucking year nonstop. No, that's one of my period experiences. That I had a nonstop period for a year. This was when I became anemic. I like was 300 pounds and just like so sick, so fucking sick. I'm so glad that I left that city. Like it was so sick. Like, ugh, I am so much healthier now. So, yeah, anyway, I've had some but that period was bad and it went with a lot of clotting. So that was mainly my experience with clotting. Actually, my last period I had was not this last one, but the one before it, was so heavy, and I had clotting, and I was just like, no, 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 no. We are not dealing with this again. Like, no, 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 no. But the last period I had was actually kind of back to normal. It only lasted like 4 days, and it was super light and easy, you know, because that last one before, like, I had a few times at work where I actually had to like go. I mean, I had to go to the bathroom because I had like overflowed my cup. I use a menstrual cup. So, they're mainly like great, are they catch everything, like you don't have as much of a mess. It's all controlled, like, because that for me is important that like I'm clean, while I'm doing all this. And also I'd like to have the blood for, magical purposes as well. So like, um like I yeah, I was just really worried though, because like to have when you have a period that is rushing out of you, like what the fuck is that, man? I know you all have experienced this where your like period is just like mainly mine is very easy, it drips, it's like cool. But when it just gushes out of you, the fact that it can exert that much power that it will like overflow your fucking menstrual cup that is like around the opening to your cervix. What the hell? What is that? Like it just is the craziest experience. So I was wearing white pants on the day I had my period, and it was heavy like a dot, 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 dot. Oh dear. I've thankfully not ruined much clothing with my period. I have known many friends that have, though. It is a bummer. My sister started at 11 and never had problem periods. 3 to 5 days every 28 days. Oh, that lucky woman. What emote says, I literally remember nothing about the beginning of my period, but I have endometriosis now and it sucks. That does suck. I've known a lot of women that have had that as well. Talk to them. We talked about endometriosis back in the day on YouTube. I remember Diana did some videos talking about it. It was really interesting, actually, because I did a video talking about menstruation or something like that, like back in the day. And a lot of the comments and women were talking about how bad like their cramping was, like how ill it made them and that sort of thing. So Diana kind of did that video and it was super good. Unfortunately, she's another woman who's been a victim of systemic fucking censorship. The amount of times that she lost her channel on YouTube back in the day was criminal. Like, a lot of people lost their channels. I mean, I lost my first channel, but that was the result of a hacking, not a like, you know, uh, just or like mass reporting. Lot of the time, people were like just mass reporting back in the day, and it was just, you know. So anyway, she did some videos talking about that. So am sad that they're not up there because it is such an issue. I haven't personally like struggled with it, but I know how badly it can impact women. So I'm sorry you're dealing with endometriosis, and any of you out there who are like or have had to deal with it and had surgeries, that sort of thing, like just sucks. Hello, Amy Starr. Poop Queen says, I remember how scared and ashamed I felt when I first got my period, but I remember I felt way more shame when I had to start wearing bras. That was traumatizing. Oh, yeah. The first bra I had, Terry, during the summer got to go visit her fundamentalist Christian cousins. At least once a summer I would end up there, as a child. And they were Southern Baptist, and I got to go to church with them. So they're a very strict household, and they had 3 girls, my aunt and uncle, and they were all just like perfect little examples of why you don't fucking like crush girl spirits, because like they seriously had these dynamics that were like something out of a horror film. Anyway, so little me would go there and have to play at being a Christian for a week or so. Um Anyway, yeah, after I was 8 and developed breasts, they would often give me hand-me-downs and shit like that too. So, after I developed breasts, and went to visit them, my dad was just like, whatever, he didn't notice them or care, So and I didn't care, I didn't feel I needed a bra. They were little buds. And I didn't need a fucking bra or undershirt, honestly. That's another thing that just irritates me. Don't fucking do that to girls. They don't need them. Let their breasts develop naturally. So anyway, I had like undershirts that I would wear with certain blouses, but most of the time as a kid I wore t-shirts, like wolf shirts. It was the 90s. I wore airbrushed wolf shirts. Okay. Like hello. So um yeah, I went to their home, and the girls noticed I had breasts, and they shamed me for it and said I couldn't be looking like that. Da, 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 da. It was too like scandalous or too uh I guess sexy. And then like I was 8. Hello. Um it just really was awful. So um and I don't know. I don't think like not all of them did this, but the oldest and the youngest were pretty. They were both way more wicked. I don't really feel that the middle child was as wicked, but like I don't know, man. So I got like shamed about my breasts and having them exposed the way I did, which I wasn't even aware of. And they gave me this old like bra of theirs that was like way too big for me, but they said it would do, and made me wear it. And I had to go home with it, and I had to go tell my father that he needed to buy me a bra right now when I went home. So I spent a week with these people as a child. And yeah, that was probably one of the worst trips there that I had. So yeah, I just, you know, I I don't know, that was the story of developing my breasts. And yeah, it was awful. I don't know, like it was just weird. And I never really felt comfortable with my chest after that. Not for years. Even still, I have discomfort about my chest, like sometimes. I do have a good relationship with my breasts, I feel, but like it felt really awful to be made to feel that way as a girl, like, about your developing breasts. You know, and I think developing breasts as a child and, you know, going through menstrual cycles or, like, shit like that, not every woman does this. Not every woman who exists has these experiences, right? But no man has had them. No man has a menstrual cycle ever, and no man develops, breasts in this way as a child. Like, these are just things that are really irritating to be gaslit about, and experiences that, like, matter and that girls and women carry a lot of shame about. So, anyway, getting back to menstruation. Um so yeah, I remember girls were pretty mean to each other about periods in some ways. I remember going into the bathroom with my friend Randy, who was this, like, very precocious in all the best ways, like, young woman, who was kind of like wannabe gangster a bit, but, like, wasn't really. And she and I went into the bathroom together one day and we're, like, doing our makeup. And she liked to do edgy makeup. Like, we were all lining our lips in middle school with, like, brown and black liner and, like, doing white lipstick inside or, like, tan lipstick inside. It was a hot look, let me tell you. So, like, all of us bad chicks did that look. Um, so I think we were doing that. I think I gave her my eyeliner to use as lip liner, in the girls' room because this just that girls do in the girls' restroom. Anyway, this girl was in the toilet, using it and probably on her period. And, like, Brandy finishes doing her, like, lip. And then she's like, "Let's get out of here. It smells like period blood in here." So, like, and you know me, I was just, like, shocked, but then I was like, "Yes," like, it kinda did, and so we left. But I also think that Brandy was on her period too, because I think later we went into the restroom and she was, like, on her period, actually. So I think she was projecting her own shame onto another girl like women do. So, yeah, that was a interesting experience. So, yeah, there's, like, shit like that. I think girls have a lot of shame about their smell, particularly. Oh, yeah, I was like I said, I was a very, I had an interesting group of friends, and I was a very interesting young woman. We were very, wild. And we were trendsetters in the school as well. So you think that look, it caught on, okay? And so did it when we started doing glitter. Oh yeah, we dumped glitter on ourselves and we just sparkled. We dumped glitter on our heads and we put glitter on our eyes. Glitter was everywhere for a big part of that year. Okay. So anyway, I'm glad Mercury is in retrograde and I can tell you all about my middle school experiences because they were very good time in my life. That's when I, like, met my best friend, and, like, we bonded for years after that. That was, like, one of the more important female friendships in my life. So, like, yeah, it was an important time for me. I also was I don't know, man, like, looking back at that time too, like, I just see a lot of things I missed, about myself too, like, about, like, very early gay feelings that I had towards one girl in particular who Like, she was very big, like, she's just bigger than all the other girls in the school, really. And we befriended each other, and she was like cool because she was like raised by a single dad too, and she's like, I don't know, just tough, you know. And there was this like guy in our fucking like gym class who was constantly picking on me. And one day she just like got up in his face. And, like, she was massive, okay? She's bigger than most of the guys in the school, and she was just, like, screaming at him and telling him that he better not fuck with her friends, and that he better step it up because she's bout it for her shit, okay? So, like, I was in love with Naomi, but her mother, like, ended up moving in with her mother that summer, and I never saw her again. So, this was the world before social media. So, yeah, what a missed opportunity for real love, but, you know, that is the way it should be. Anyway, or that is the way it is, not the way it should be. So anyway, moving on. Like, yeah, most of my girlfriends started getting their periods in middle school. By the time we were in high school, pretty much everyone had their period, to my knowledge, that in my social circle. So we were pretty comfortable with it. We talked about it sometimes. A lot of my friends had worse cramps than I did. I didn't really start getting cramps until about 10th grade. And I remember one of the first times, it wasn't the first time I had cramps, but it was the first time I had cramps that was excruciating. I was in 10th grade and I was in my like English literature class. Um, I think that's what it was. I'm not really sure. She did like a very, maybe it was, I don't know. I don't know if it was English literature. It was like it was American literature class. Because yeah, I was like, we didn't read any English literature. So anyway, it's just so you know that detail. So I was in that class and I was just overcome with pain. Like I needed to put my head down. Like, and you know, like I was never one of those kids that was like really passive or like put their head down, but I started to understand why there were like some kids did. And I was like, some of the girls must be having pretty bad periods. So I developed a lot more empathy for those kids like after that because you know I didn't know what they were physically going through. um so yeah, but I remember I put my head down and actually the pain was so bad I actually passed out, like fell asleep. I was never a kid that fell asleep in class, but like I fell asleep or passed out, I don't know what, and I was woken up by like my shoe falling off of my foot because my legs were like crossed in such a way, and I felt my shoe come off and I was like, "Oh fuck," you know, it woke me up and I was just like shocked at how bad my period felt, you know, or my you know, I'd never experienced it like that. And so I went home and went to bed pretty much that day. Um yeah, so that's like a high school period experience. I remember another experience when I was 18, I kind of got a job in a mental hospital cleaning the kitchen. I was like I was worked in their industrial strength kitchen, cleaning like the industrial cookware. So there were these like massive pots and pans that I was like a washer of, and then I also washed like the patient's dishes and that sort of thing, and put them out, and like sometimes served them in the cafeteria setting, that sort of thing. So yeah, that was one of my. It was probably like my third job I'd had at that point. Um, it was one of the better paying jobs, but I left it because of just how fucked up the whole environment was. Anyway, one of my coworkers who I befriended was a much older, like Filipino woman named Florence, and we would have like lunch together pretty much every day because we were on the same schedule. And I remember talking with her about like being on my period and like I got like some juice to drink to eat with her. She was so nice to sit and eat with me because I was a weirdo at that fucking time. Like, what a sweet woman, honestly. Like, but yeah, like I would have my juice, you know, I was drinking my cold juice and she like looked at me and she was like, she's like, why are you drinking that when you're like on your period? And I had never connected before until she said that to me. Remember, I didn't have a mother, so no woman ever explained the shit to me. Like, no older woman ever was there to like explain to me, like, hey, maybe you should have something hot when you're on your period. Yeah. So she kind of like asked me that. It's like, oh, I don't really get cramps, which I didn't. But like now, like when I do have cramps, I'm always sure to drink something hot versus something cold. And that really does help, you know, with soothing the body actually and not causing the cramps to get worse. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that experience because that's something that kind of popped in my mind in terms of like things about my own experiences with my period. So I'm going to read your comments before I move on. Wadamote, can I ask you why you spell women with an X? I mean, I've seen that. I'm really kind of unsure how I feel about it. So I'd like to know why it is you spell it that way. Oh, your dad told your mom to tell you to start wearing a bra. That is what the fuck. See, men are so fucking inappropriate with their daughters. Like, just shut the fuck up, dude. Like, really. I think sometimes they notice like other men notice and then they get like that kind of fucking thing. Either that or they notice it themselves. Cause you know, I think that's what's going on there when men get like that, honestly. But you know, that's my suspicion. Uterus Power said, after 20 years of having my period every 28 days like clockwork in my mid-30s, for the first time ever, I had 2 periods in 1 month and began experiencing severe pelvic pain. Pelvic pain is bad. I've only had that happen a few times during a period, but Poop Queen, I'm talking about bras. I had to start wearing it at 11. I would take it off when I got to school and get yelled at when mom picked me up. Isn't that humiliating? Uterus Power. Surgery found endometriosis and it had infiltrated my colon wall. Oh, honey. And I underwent a total hysterectomy and removal of one of my ovaries. I still have one ovary, so my hormone levels haven't been affected. Oh, man. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Radical by Choice said she used to suffer extreme pain and regular month from it. God, this kind of pain is just terrible. If you are having this kind of pain, like, you know, yeah. Mayday for Women says that she loves my content. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, okay, Wadamote says, I just recently started spelling women this way with an X on a whim because I don't know, I'm sick of seeing the word man, laugh my ass off, or slash men, which I get, but like my concern with this spelling is the fact that like women are really desexed in this culture. And when I see the X, I feel kind of like instead of the spelling with the Y, I feel respects our specific sex sex characteristics, because it could be an argument that you could relate the Y to the gine, or to the uterus. It would give some sort of homage to that. But when you spell it with an X, I feel like you're taking the sex out of the term, and it's just women with two X. That's not bad. Yeah, women with two X's, I guess, would be better. But I feel kind of desexed by when I see women with an X, on posters, there's going to be a women's march here, right, next year. And they're spelling it with an X now. And it's just has the world gone mad? Yes. Yes, it has. Yeah. It's just not one of my preferred other spellings of women. I don't see things like woman used very much, with an O. I think that's kind of, pretty. I don't see women with I's and two M's when I really like that one. That's women. I like that one. I more often see it with a Y. I've also seen Woombin. I don't know. Ma Wims. Wims is another one. I like Wims. I used to say it a bit back in the day. Right now, I just like to use plain spelling, with English, even if it has the word men, which I understand just because I don't want to alienate anyone with that kind of minefield. I'd rather just we all know what this term means, so let's just use it that way. I'm trying to think about what else I could talk about in my period. I mean, I've told you about the year from hell of a nonstop period, pretty much. And yeah, I guess recently I did mention this to Diana, who was in the chat earlier, that my cycle has kind of started syncing up with the moon. I mean, it's done it at different points in my life, but when I feel really closely synced up with the moon, I definitely am feeling a lot more powerful and just alive and connected. And I want to talk about, I guess, what that's about. Women's menstrual cycles are so often related to the moon cycle. And even culturally, some places it's referred to, as a lunar cycle. The moon is really heavily associated with the menstrual cycle. So I'm sorry, I keep getting alerts on my computer. So to the fact that mine is now lining up with the full moon more, it's just I don't know, it's a cool thing to experience and to sit in, especially because it's generally a magical time, for me. So with the full moon and the new moons, I do my things and I feel that cycle. So to be menstruating at that time is interesting. I also really enjoy not menstruating during the new moon. I really enjoy that. That's a powerful experience. But sometimes if I haven't gotten my period yet and there's a full moon, I will start it. It'll just something about I definitely feel a pull, and I guess it's just because there's more fluid in my body, and the moon does affect fluid on the planet, the water on the planet. I guess I kind of just, because when you are on your period, you are in this more hyper aware state physically, just because of what's happening to you internally. I think you can feel like that sort of thing a lot more strongly. I think women are a lot more powerful and actually more together when we're on our periods. And I've also read things about how women are always, accused of being more just crazy when we're on our periods, and how it's interesting because our hormone levels, like we have generally hormone levels that are much closer to, I guess, male hormone levels than any other time of the month. So when we are accessing that sort of state, we're considered to be crazy. And it's just interesting how, like, the period experience puts you back into, like, reality in this whole different way that most of the time women can just dissociate from. Like, the period is the time where we can't dissociate from reality. We become elemental again, I would say. So there is this whole spiritual, like, experience that goes on, if we're open to it. We're experiencing that thing of being present with the world around us, which mankind is trying to get us to not be. So, for most of the time, that's what's going on. But they even want you to dissociate from your period, and I think it's important to not do that. I think it's important to allow your body to cramp and to feel it, feel what that feels like, and to allow your body to bleed out sometimes. During parts of my period, if I can, if I'm at home, I like to have a towel and just kind of like use that to hang out in instead of just like always having a cup inside of me and, not being allowed to just kind of lounge. I think it's important to like be able to do that if you can, like if your period's light enough. Um, there's a lot of shame still and stigma around menstrual blood. And like, I've seen so many people react with horror about menstrual blood that like, is just particular. Um, yeah, it's just, it's a very, it's a very sordid subject, I guess. I don't know if I really have much else to say about it. I'm thinking, like, I've talked about, like, the connection to the lunar cycles, the earth, the elements, all of that. I've talked about my own experiences, um, and, like, other things that women go through, but, like, yeah. Seraphina suggested we should reclaim female, or is it female, which unlike woman was altered to female to match male. I like that. I feel mentally and spiritually more powerful. Sorry, Sarah Kay says, I feel mentally and spiritually more powerful. It's psychedelic. Physically, I feel weaker, but that's okay. I just take it easy as I can. I mean, yeah, I think it's important to give yourself like time to take it easy when you're on your period. So if you don't have time to be at home nesting on your period, that's a problem because like, your body needs to rest and you are in like a physically weaker state. I definitely feel weaker. I definitely try to keep like iron pills in the house because I do have, a history with anemia because of the intense periods I had. And, that has caused so many other health problems. But it is important to feel that state and to be in it. And yeah, it is like it's trippy. It's like its own trip if you let it be. It is psychedelic a lot of the time. We think of like psychedelic trips as being like these total out of body, out of mind experiences. But sometimes the trippiest thing you can do is just be present and be here, like, and be in your body. Like, that's a real fucking trip. So yeah, I totally agree. See radicales. She also oh, no, sorry, that was Sarah Kay that said that. See, radically says, when I dated men, I would feel more emotional during menstruation. But now that I don't date men, I don't get that way. I can see how that would happen. Yeah. Like, ooh, we should talk about syncing. Let's talk about syncing. You just reminded me of another thing that periods do. My dad was definitely, Wadamote says, my dad was definitely one of those people. When I was younger and living with him, he would scream at me at the top of his lungs to empty the bathroom trash whenever I changed my tampon. That shit is so lame. Yeah, no, I dealt with that too in the bathroom. Like, I was pretty tidy, but, like, if something, like, fell out or something, I would be screamed at to, like, fucking clean it up, you know? And, like, yeah, I'll clean it up, but, like, just the hostility. Like, the fucking hostility, like, "You're disgusting, clean this up, this even shouldn't even be here." Like, ridiculous. Um Radically says, "Yes, iron, I always crave red meat on my period." Yeah, it's definitely a time that I do eat red meat. I'm not a big red meat eater, but it is a time that I have to get some because, I mean, yeah, it's just that, and, like, I'm also not big on chocolate, but I'll try to get, like, a piece most periods, not every period, but sometimes, like, it's not something that I regularly eat, so you have to understand, like, I go out of my way to, like, get some. Um, Megan says she feels more like working out when she's on her period. I feel achy and restless, but weirdly strong. That's interesting. I mean, I've definitely had periods that I felt powerful in. I get that. They haven't all wiped me out. I think as I get older, you know, I just naturally I'm a lot sicker than I, was when I was younger. Like, I was a lot hardier back in the day, and now, like, a period can take a lot out of me. So, but yeah, I definitely have had that experience of being, like, I guess, kind of really, yeah, powerful. I don't know. I know what you mean. Salvia Plas says, "Hey Terry, I love your content. Thank you. I'm new to radical feminism, and your videos have been an incredible resource. Thank you. I'm glad that you are getting something from them." Um, we're going to, yeah, let's see, put this user out. That is not an appropriate thing to say. Okay, so let's talk about syncing. When periods sync up. Um, I've had a few experiences where, like, one time my best friend gave me her period because she was sitting next to me and she was just having this really intense, stressful one. Um, and this was in high school. I was sitting next to her in class, and, like, just her anxiety and everything, and then I started to feel it in my gut, and I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna get my period too," you know? And sure enough, later that day after I got home, it started, and I, of course, called her and told her, like, "You gave it to me." So, yeah, that was, I think that was my first experience thinking. We weren't really on the same cycle most of the time, or at least we didn't talk about it much, but, like, that did happen to us once, and it was just like, "What the fuck?" When I lived with my friend Kaylee back in the day, um, And we hung out a lot too before we lived together. So I think even in Alaska, like this happened, we synced up pretty interestingly. I would start my period and then hers would like usually start a day or two later. So that was interesting. So when we lived together, that happened as well. Um, yeah, like that was some good stuff. And actually, it's kind of nice when you have a friend who has a period, like when you are synced up with a friend or a girlfriend or whatever, you know, the one that starts first will usually be a warning to the other. So you can like prepare a lot better. Um, you know, in terms of girlfriends, um, let's see, one of my lovers, she has extremely bad just period stuff. Like I don't even know how to describe it, but like just the amount of she would just have such debilitating cramps and she would like get so pale and sick and just like awful period. Um like but hers and I's never really synced up. So that was good. I mean, she was with me when I had like my year-long fucking period. So, oh, I didn't even talk about that. After this year of having a period, I went a year having no period. Yes. So I'll talk about that too. But yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, often some women just have more susceptible, like sorts of, I guess, uteruses that, you know, they will bleed if their partner is bleeding. So like it's that's an interesting thing that happens. There's certain girls out there like that. So like I don't know, thinking is an interesting thing. I think it represents a kind of interesting connection between two women, be it a friendship or like a lover situation, it is, or like maybe a family situation. I think it's an interesting thing that we do. That like we're not just because we communicate with our faces, you know, but our bodies are in communication with one another, and we often forget that. Um, and I've heard of like cases of like entire like groups of women having the same cycle. It's interesting how that can happen. Seraphine says, the more talking about periods becomes problematic, the more I want women to talk about them all the time. The most surprising was developing strong feelings about first moon gift parties. Yeah, we should talk about that too. So, yeah, in the year 2016, my father died. And after he died, I didn't have a period for a year. And I've heard that this often happens when a parent dies. I came across a bit of some sort of thing about grief, and it was mentioned that that's often a thing that can happen. So, yeah, I went a year after I had been bleeding continuously for a year right before this happened, this event with my father dying. And then I went a year without bleeding before I started up again. So that was a very interesting experience. Um, I definitely think, you know, I'm empathic. So I definitely like just being around my father, like the last couple of years of his life was just like very physically difficult for me, on top of just mentally, emotionally, all of that shit. Like physically, it was hard on my body because he just, you know, like stressful energy for me, you know, and I had to put up such a fucking boundary with him all the time. It was just exhausting. So, yeah, I think my body was kind of like going through this process, of my own. And it was the middle of my Saturn fucking return too. So like all of that was happening. So yeah, it can happen with grief that a woman's period stops. And I think for me, it totally made sense. Like I had so much other shit going on. I did not have the fucking energy to bleed, because I was just busting ass that year to stay like, I don't know, not off the streets, really. It was busting my ass to like not be homeless. Basically, that year was the year for me of that shit, and I succeeded. But man, it was yeah, I could not be having a period on top of all of that. So it's interesting how that can happen. Mm. So Seraphine brought up the fact that talking about periods is problematic. So I talked about some stuff at the beginning with how the trans cult is just so maliciously gaslighty with women. And you can, if you are just joining me or have joined me later after that, like you can watch it on catch up, some of the stuff I talked about. But this is another thing, like the language around us even being able to talk about menstruating is so fucking, it's a minefield. Why should we have a minefield about our experiences as women? It's astounding to me that we are expected to not talk about these formative experiences with one another that men don't have to fucking read, mind you. Okay? This is the thing that really irritates me about it too. Say you are an individual who identifies as transgender, all right? Be it male or female, right? Doesn't matter. Let's just say that is the case. And you have some weird feelings about menstruation, either because you menstruate and that doesn't go along with your delusion that you're male, or you don't menstruate and that reminds you that you have a dick. So, like, to say this is your shit that you're dealing with on this planet, maybe not every conversation about this subject is for you. Maybe you should write stuff for you, or like talk to other people who are, dealing with this for you. I just, like, or continue to ignore it, because the thing is, like, it's just, it's such a, it's just really fucked up to put minefields up about a subject which impacts women and girls, because girls get periods too. It's fucked up to put these minefields up that are meant to navigate talking about this, and to do it in such a way that dehumanizes the participants. The thing with the period and the shame, the menstruation, let's talk about some of that stuff. One of the most common slang terms for a menstrual cycle is the curse. The curse of Eve, right? This period is meant to, in patriarchal religion, which is what we fucking are dealing with for the most part. This is supposed to be, how this is the message that we get about ourselves and it, and we are ashamed of it, and we are screamed at, by males for like having trash associated with it growing up. We get so much shame about it, silencing it. Girls who have spotting are made fun of, you know? Or like my friend in the bathroom making a comment about like smelling a girl's period blood. Like, we are told to be discreet about it, to be quiet about it, to be ashamed of it, and that no one needs to know about it, to keep it hush hush, not talk about it. So when women are publicly talking about it, and we're not even getting into celebrating it, which I think it should be, but like, because of all of the positive things I've mentioned about it, it is this incredible experience that we have as beings, like, that is rare. Um, I guess, in the sense that it's like, it's a special thing to go through. So anyway, we have so much shame about it. We have so much like silencing about it culturally because it's just considered disgusting to talk about. Like, that's disgusting. A lot of men equate and think of it as either sexual or like they equate it to like other bodily waste. And it's just like such a deeper experience than just bodily waste. It is so much more than that. Like, that's how it's viewed. So to have to carry all this shame and yet to still talk about it publicly too, and to try and connect about it, it takes courage and bravery. And then to have male people and male identified women coming in and trying to silence it, and either silence the conversation or make the conversation dehumanizing to the participants by referring to ourselves as menstruators. This is the thing that really bugs me about that language, menstruator, or people who menstruate. But menstruators is often being used as the PC term. It's fucking misogynistic as hell. All right. Not all women have to have a period for you to say women. It's really not that hard. And just the language of menstruators is reducing us to this function. It's when that's exactly one of the experiences about it that's so negative, because you are reduced to that function. And you don't want to be reduced to that function because you're like a being outside of the function, but because you have this function and it's considered gross and weird and fucked up and female by the patriarchal society you're living in that is not oriented towards you as a woman, you have to therefore, continue to be like silenced and shamed and made to be small about it and just referred to with the most sick language. Like the fact that, like, I don't know, any of these companies, like, this is the thing. There's a lot of companies that sell alternative products, you know. There was, I think, a recent backlash against one of the like pad companies that sells reusable pads or something because they were referring to women as menstruators. You know, I can't remember the name of it. If anyone knows, I'd appreciate you putting it in the low bar or in the chat. Sorry. Yeah, like that was a perfect example of how capital sells the resistance back to people. That's that to a T, right? Anyone who tries to sell you resistance as a fucking lifestyle or as a consumer choice, fuck them, okay? Fuck them. That's what they do. This is what capital co-ops social movements. Anything that it cannot erase, it co-ops. And don't let it happen to your radical feminist politics. It's already fucking happening with the whole gender critical fucking bullshit that's happening. You see how people are capitalizing on a grassroots thing, on a radical thing, and making their careers on it. And it's like, on one level, it's good that we have people talking about it publicly, but the radical politics are being lost. If you are going to be doing this, you need to have the radical politics. Those can't be lost. And it sickens me to see, again, things being co-opted and made commercial and palatable. Ew. Gross. Yuck. Not because it's wrong to like do that shit, like, but because it's just be careful. Like, these companies that are capitalizing on body positivity and all that shit, they're just doing it because it's a demographic and a trend that they want to cater to. Okay. Ultimately, their bottom line is their dollar. I saw the other day, one of my favorite accounts I follow on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook is Humans of Late Capitalism. And they reposted a screenshot of Ivanka Trump's Instagram where she posted a motivational quote. This motivational quote was Audre fucking Lorde, okay? Audre Lorde being posted by Ivanka Trump. And it was her quote about taking care of yourself being like an act of resistance or some shit. Like, I can't remember the quote off the top of my head, but it's like one of her iconic quotes. And I just like, my response was, holy shit, right? Like, blew my fucking mind. But that's the same sort of thing that happens with like, these companies that are, selling all, healthy menstrual care products, like reusable, environmentally friendly, like better for women's bodies, better for the environment. They're ultimately down to make money, and they think that they'll make more money basically selling out women by calling us menstruators rather than like catering to us. So anyway, those are my thoughts about it. And I'm looking for that particular tweet just so I can show it, or we'll read it to you. It's looks like I have no idea where it is. Whatever. Okay, never mind. It doesn't matter. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the quote. If not, go follow that page, because they always post images that make you think, and thinking is important. In the beginning was the splurge. Do you think men are genetically controlling and violent, or is it more something that is taught to them by the culture? If it's the former, would it make sense to genetically engineer men to be less so? Just a thought. I believe the former. I don't think it is a worthwhile idea to genetically engineer men to be less so. I know some women have suggested that women like do that, but honestly, I think we need to stop, like, as a people, collectively, stop breeding with them. Like, the planet is overpopulated, so women need to stop breeding. resist breeding, don't breed with them. That will lower the numbers just overall. But also, like, I just think, you know, I don't really think we need that many of them, honestly. Like, I think it should be like in other species where the females are kind of the center of society and males are peripheral. Because the whole thing about patriarchy is this peripheral creature has it made itself the center of everything. It's the whole thing is a reversal. That's all that patriarchy is. It's a reversal of the natural order. It is chaos disguised as order. Okay. See, radically says, thinks the period underwear did that. So it was thinks. Okay. I'm sure others have, though, too. But thank you for sharing that information. I don't know. I don't really want period underwear. I'm fine with like a reusable pad and my cup. Like that is great to me. I think the idea is cool, but like just given how I feel about my period, yeah, no. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. It doesn't feel like something I'd enjoy. Seraphine says, the thought I keep returning to is that not all women menstruate, but all women and only women are targeted by period shaming. Yep. Why is it always cold Latin? Parthenogen says, why is it always cold Latin like menstruator and never anything cool like blood daughter or red giver or whatever? I mean, outside of the clinical pamphlets. I don't know. That's another thing. It's always so clinical. That's how you know this thing is all like corporate, like run funded bullshit. It's like they use language like that. It's like that Steve Buscemi like clip where he's like, hello, fellow kids. And like the establishment is like, hello, gender nonconforming beings. Like that's one of their gotchas, isn't it? Like menstruators. And it's like, did somebody in gender nonconforming do that? Write that? No, I don't think they did. That sounded like some primitive misogyny there. Seraphine said, why not? Once the Gremlins reclaimed Andrea Dworkin as an anti-red femme icon, nothing surprises me. Oh, we should so talk about that. I know. Why? These people hate Dworkin and her ideas. I mean, I have very mixed feelings about Andrea Dworkin. Like, I think any healthy feminist does, but like, I really like am astounded that anyone could read her work and like just think that it in any way syncs up with this cult. It doesn't. Seraphine says, sure, I'll call people who are menstruating Carinia, as in Carinia brevis, the algae whose bloom is called crimson tide. LOL. That's very funny. Sabrina Stem says, I feel unsafe. You should, because this is not a safe space. I mean, I intend to keep it to be, but also like it isn't. It's a safe, unsafe space. Does that make sense? I'm all into the safe, unsafe space. Seraphine says, I didn't go through 20 years of Dworkin being the go-to crazy feminazi name to put up with this. I know. It's interesting just seeing her like be appropriated in this way. Again, anything capital cannot destroy, it will co-opt. That's what will happen. They figured Dworkin, they can't erase her, so they're gonna fucking co-opt her. They're gonna do what they did to Audre Lorde and others, Adrienne Rich. They're gonna churn her into like another fucking liberal fucking icon. And people are gonna read her words and think, yeah. And it's gonna be all of the radicalism will be lost because they couldn't erase her. I was watching on Netflix, like the last show I binged, I think last week. I haven't I haven't like been doing that recently, so I went on there to look for something and I decided to watch this show called Happy-ish, which is a few years old and it stars Steve Coogan and like I like a lot of his stuff, so I decided to give it a try, right? And I liked it. I watched it. It was entertaining. Some of it was vulgar, actually, but you know, it like there was actually the porn actor James Dean, the fucking rapist, was in it. So that's how I knew it was a few years old. And also they did they had a like scene where him as a character, he's an advertiser, right? He mentions like they're doing a thing for Wonder Bra, and he said like they were trying to like sell it as this sort of female empowerment shit or something, and he dropped Andrea Dworkin's name, right? And then like um he said that something like he said that she didn't I don't know, she didn't need to do something to empower women or something, and then, like, the woman's response was that she never wore a bra. So, it was just, like, it's interesting how she is, like, still in, like, the consciousness in that way. Like, they can't erase her, so they will co-opt her. Um, Sabrina Stem, I totally agree. I would love to have a good pair of overalls. I have never been able to fit into overalls. Like, if I could find a pair of overalls that fit me good, you know, I've been thinking maybe I should go to like a Carhartt type store and get like a pair of Carhartt, like workman's ones, so I can look really fucking Portland. Like, I don't look like a real Portland radical. I don't have any Carhartts, you guys. Like, I need to get some. So maybe that'll be my next big purchase so that I can infiltrate, you know, and disrupt the whole thing with my radical feminist bullshit, right? Lem Yog says a lot of anti-feminists here use her as an icon. Yeah, so yeah, Andrea Dworkin co-opted by the establishment to, you know, for its own nefarious purposes. May they never do this to me. I mean, they've even fucking done it to fucking Valerie Solanas. Fuck them, right? That pisses me off. It pisses me off. Sorry. I hate that shit. Fuck you, Lena Dunham. Fuck you, Lena Dunham. God. Oh, this vile woman. I cannot stand that. Um, The French called this recuperation, by the way. In short, following World War II, there was a desperate need to get things back on track by turning all the revolutionary sentiment into marketing slogans. Yep, recuperation. That is what it is called. Thank you for sharing that. Um, it's a great term, and it's, yeah, I don't know, it's just the problem, it happens to everything. I was reading this guy's, I'm going off topic now, and I think I'm done really. I'll close out the topic on menstruation now. I just want to talk about that. Like, I've been feeling this way for a while. But this, let's see. I hadn't really heard anyone articulate it, so it was like the first time I'd kind of seen it in a while, at least in language that I thought was pretty clear for all of my followers. So this guy, James E. Ford, said, "Every time I hear someone say this is not America, I feel a profound sense of failure as an educator. It's a reminder how so much of our current situation has been facilitated by a miseducation system. It's completely deliberate." And so, like, I mean, yeah, that's how I feel when I hear liberals like constantly like, "This is not our America," or like all over Portland, there's these signs that say, "In our America," or "This is not the America I believe in." That kind of shit, like that language is just so. It really kind of tells you about what someone identifies with, and it's really alienating for me to like be confronted with it. So anyway, I think that it's similar. The recuperation is of radicals into becoming symbols of the society itself. It's repugnant, it's how, you know, the resistance leaders are then made into, icons of the establishment. It's just and the fact that it happens with like great thinkers, feminist thinkers, who most people who associate and align themselves with these thinkers like would be totally horrified by their beliefs and would they'd be slandering them, but it's because their ideas have been co-opted by the establishment. They're safe to associate oneself with, despite the fact that if you really went and like interrogated their work honestly, you'd probably have to radicalize a lot more. There's so many ways in which people just hang on to their liberalism. And, the fact that the system co-ops radical leaders is a big part of that. It's so horrible. I'm sorry you got blocked right away, Lemyog. Of course you did. Was this on Twitter? I'm wondering, because I noticed some interesting blocking happening around particularly Dworkin and the new book that's come out about her. Yeah. She's like, "Oh, I'm like all the turf sentiment." It's just like, who do you think Andrea Dworkin's fans are? Stupid. Fuck. So Anti-Gaia says, "Does it irritate you when people try and equate so-called matriarchy with patriarchy as if women have the same motives when they gain so-called control over society? They tend to try and move society for the betterment of the people who need help the most, rather than for glory and ego, like men toward. I mean, most of the people who advocated for disability rights were women. I'm pretty sure that's a statistical fact if you had to crunch the numbers." I would say that yes, women generally are, in terms of the actual work of most social justice movements, apart from disability rights, let's be real, it's mostly fucking women. Okay? Women are the ones in the fucking like, they're in the fucking streets doing the shit. All right? Men fucking are mainly big egos. Very few, most of the time women are just doing the work, shutting the fuck up and doing the work, because that's what we do, isn't it? So I just want to say that, women are awesome and no movement, would exist without them, without us. So yeah, it's just, yeah. But I will say, like, that does irritate me, but also, like, I don't really promote matriarchy either, and I wanna be clear about that. Mother rule does not sound better than father rule to me, okay? I wanna get rid of m parental rule. I think mommy and daddy need a divorce, and then we need to go live with our gay Aunt Terry. That's what I think. Hi, Leah. Thanks for stopping by, Milo. I think I'm gonna wrap this up shortly unless anyone wants to mention anything else about menstruation or any other of these fun subjects that we've discussed today. I should tweet this. This should be my next tweet, like, about matriarchy versus patriarchy. Like, I don't know. Is matriarchy better than patriarchy? Yes, but why not try to make something better than both? Why not try to make it something good? Like, what would it be like if your gay Aunt Terry, like, had a big home, and you could do all the things that you wanted to do. You could explore yourself. Like, you weren't limited by your fucked up parents' ideas of what you're supposed to be or do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm trying to envision, because I've got the whole Taurus North Node directing me towards, like, manifesting the Empress on this plane. So, like, this is what I'm thinking. Like, how do we do that? And I think it's, we move past this hierarchical rule of, like, adults, really. So, So Gary Witch says, "Hi Terry. I think anti-Gaia means matriarchy in the female and power sense of the word. I understand that, but, like, I know that's what's meant, but I think feminists need to not use that language. Like, I think we can envision a different society. I don't even think females in power. I want to radically restructure the nature of power. And I think women in power, and when we talk about matriarchy as an idea, or, like, a female run society, you know, obviously that would radically transform the nature of power. But also, we need to have a proper vision of what that entails. And I think the term matriarchy gets back to a hierarchy that I don't like, that I think is, harmful. Yeah, this is why I talk about, like, things like mother privilege. In the society now, the worship and adoration and adulation of women for breeding is a real problem. So, you know, when we use words like matriarchy, it's also kind of elevating mothers in status. It may not seem like that's what we're doing, but it does. And that's a big hierarchy between women that needs to be broken down. So that's why I don't like that language. I don't think communism is a stepping stone to anarchy. I think that communism is the goal and that anarchy is the stepping stone to communism if you're an anarchist, but I don't believe in anarchism. I'm not an anarchist. So, or at least I wasn't when I was involved in male leftist politics. I'm just a radical feminist now. Um, but, like, yeah, well, see, I don't know. I just want to be clear, like, where my associations lie. Your English is great. Um, I'm just, like, hypercritical about those things. Oh, Pixie Biz is here. Amy and Pixie Biz both here. Yay. um and period. A very cute name. A hi to you and anyone else who I've missed. I think I've welcomed everyone. If I haven't said your name, you should like let me know cuz everyone's, you know, I want to acknowledge everyone in the chat. Even if I don't read your stuff out. But yeah, no, I don't. In answer to your question, sorry. Hi, Mellow Yellow. In answer to your question, Lemyog, I don't think matriarchy would be a stepping stone. No, I don't think feminists should advocate for matriarchy. I don't think it's good language to use. I don't think we should advocate for it at all. I think we should move beyond it. I don't want to fucking live in a matriarchy. I don't want to elevate motherhood. I don't want to do any of that. Like, that's not to me very radical. It's just kind of like an inversion of this. And it's just, we don't why have a stepping stone? We why have a fucking stepping stone? Why do we believe that we are incapable of radically transforming ourselves and society now? Why can't we believe in that now and work for what we want now? Why do we have to wait? To me, that's like telling women to wait till after the revolution to be liberated or some shit. It's like that same kind of thing. That same sort of like, oh, wait, and we'll deal with your issue later. Oh, we'll deal with this issue later. After. No, like dealing with it now is part of the revolution. It's about getting people to see like, how things need to change and anywhere people are moving, anywhere particularly women are moving and organizing and changing and doing things to try and better their lives, there's like revolutionary potential. So I'm always thinking like, where's the revolution, where's it going to happen? um So let's see. Exactly. Period says exactly. I don't understand why we should be structured with either sex having power over the other. I mean, I think males do need to be controlled, but I think that's different than, I guess, having power over them. Power is it's a complex thing, I should say. Power can be a very great thing. I think a lot of times women don't understand how powerful they really are. And, the shaming we have about our menstrual cycles, our bodies, everything that we experience as women, it leads us to like doubt ourselves and our own power. That's what all of this is about. The silencing of you about your physical body, the shaming you about it, all of that's about controlling you and keeping you small and ashamed and scared to speak out because then, they'll just throw your disgusting womanhood at you, and you'll be seen for what you are, just a woman. And a lot of women just don't realize like the power within them. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to say that too. I think there's like there's that sort of power or how we see it in the male world, how they do power. And they're different things, as apart from like seeing like your own potential. Lem Yog says, yeah, I think complete revolution is better than numerous reforms to achieve a goal. For fucking real. We're worth it. Revolution, because you're worth it. Ew. Oh my God. I think that's going to make a new sticker campaign. Revolution, because you're worth it. See, I like doing these live streams because I don't know, I just put my phone, there it is. I love it because like I just get to sit here and chat with you about potential tweets. This is my tweet process, you know. This is how I do it. I'm like, So, yeah. Big Dyke Energy Band is here. Wow. A Big Dyke Energy Band. That sounds really cool. Seraphine says, we have no way of knowing what a matriarchy would even look like. It isn't what we have now, but women are the entitled, violently suppressive ones. I mean, there are cultures that are considered matrilineal. So there's like that, I guess. I mean, yeah, we don't know what a matriarchy would look like. So we should just dream up what we want and then do what we want. That's the thing. Like, just dream up what sort of thing we want. We don't have to know what it would look like. Just do what we want. I guess that's what it looks like. Also, some of us do genuinely believe women are better. Me, I'm one of them. Which doesn't mean every individual woman is good or blameless. Big Deck Energy Band said, welcome to the lesbian revolution. That's what I'm doing. And Seraphine says, that slogan is terrible. I love it. I'm going to tweet it. There was another thing I was supposed to tweet that I'll probably not. But yeah, I got to put that one out there. Hopefully Twitter doesn't ban me. I mean, how long before they're banning people for calling for revolution? Yeah. So, yeah, I guess, like I said, I do want to wrap this up. It's been 2 hours with all of you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. If there's any, like, last things you would like to touch on, let me know. But I think 2 hours and this discussion went pretty well, and I really appreciate everyone here. I have some really cool ideas for videos coming up, actually. So I know I haven't been doing many videos this past month. It has been a big transition month for me with like my home. Obviously, like every video, I'm doing some sort of different setup. I'm not sure where I want to record yet. I am getting a new desk, so that may factor in. I may be recording at a desk soon, which I haven't done in like years. But we'll see. So I'm just like kind of, things are in transition. So recording's been kind of weird for me, but I do have some interesting video ideas coming up. I do want to start talking about like international topics a bit. There's a few things that I've wanted to talk about with women in different parts of the world. So I don't know. I think that's going to be coming up this soon. And yeah, I am considering, like I said, starting a second channel. So yeah, there's some stuff going to be going on with my content very soon. So I guess nobody has anything else to say. Yeah, if you are not getting notifications, be sure to click the bell next to my name when you're subscribed, where you're subscribed. If you click a bell like that comes up, you'll get alerts every time I do live streams when one of my videos comes out. It's like a really good tool to have, because otherwise, like, you're just gonna get them through like either your subscription box, or, you know, if I tweet the video, I didn't even share this on Facebook because I felt like there was a big enough crowd here that I didn't need to. But yeah, that is something you can do. So yeah, thanks for mentioning it. Sleepy Weepy says, sending big love. Thank you. Thanks for spending your time and energy with us tonight, Terry. Of course, I'm happy to. I hope that I can do another stream this week as well, as on top of a possible video. So, you know, I love doing my YouTube. And Parthenogen said, thank you for streaming. Yeah, thank you for coming to my stream and engaging in a, you know, female-centric conversation. It was good. Yeah, okay, so wrapping up now. If you missed kind of the more discussion on menstruation, it got really funny. I talk about my own personal experiences, so I would recommend watching it on catch up. Until next stream, goodbye. Thank you for coming. I hope you all have a good night or day wherever you are in the world. All right. I'm clicking off now. Goodbye.